Hello, grade 7. Welcome back to math class. Today we are continuing with chapter 5, angle properties and straight lines. You need your math notebook, your math book, and a pencil, and a protractor and a ruler. Let's begin. Make sure that you write down everything that is blue or pink or any other color except for black. If it is black, you do not have to write it. So we've been talking about angles. We've talked about complementary and supplementary angles. We've talked about adjacent angles. We've talked about vertical angles. We've talked about angles on a point. Today we are going to talk about alternate interior and alternate exterior and corresponding angles. So we're going to look at this problem and then we'll come back to it tomorrow and you'll have all the information you need to solve it. Okay? So BA is parallel to CD. All right, without measuring, so without using your protractor, find the value of X. What are some things we know that could help us? Okay, we know about straight angles. We know about vertical angles. We know about angles on a point. Okay. I see vertical angles in this. I see angles on a point. If we extend lines, which we can do, I can see straight angles. Okay. So this is going to test your skills, but tomorrow you will be able to do this problem. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do today is we're going to identify the type of angles formed by parallel lines and a transversal. Okay, so the first thing you are going to do is you are going to draw a pair of parallel lines. So parallel line, all right? And you make sure that you denote your parallel line with an arrow, okay? And then you're going to draw a line that intersects this pair of parallel lines, okay? EF. How many angles do you see? You should see 8, right? You have 1 here, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay? We're going to use a protractor to measure each angle formed. Okay? So, my trusty old protractor. All right. This is going to be a little more difficult for me. Okay. But I'm thinking can look here. And actually, you know what really helps me? I'm going to draw a pink dot on the vertex so I can see it in my hole. All right. We'll line it up. So it looks like angle 2 is about 60 degrees. Okay. And if angle 2 is 60 degrees, angle 1 is 120 degrees. And if angle 2 is 60 degrees, angle 4 is also 60 degrees because of vertical angles. And angle 3 is 120 because of vertical angles. Okay? Then I'm going to come down here And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to first make a dot on my vertex so that I can match up my line. All right, and it looks like angle 6 is also 60, which means angle 5 is 120. And opposites. Okay. What do you notice about the angles? You should notice that there are 4 sets of vertical angles. Okay? All right. So, you also should notice that there are 8 angles. Okay? We notice that the measure of angle 4, 2 is equal to the measure of angle 4 because they are vertical angles. And the measure of angle 3 equals the measure of angle 1. The measure of angle 5 equals the measure of angle 7. And the measure of angle 8 equals the measure of angle 6. Okay. We also notice that adjacent angles add up to 180. These are all things that I used to measure, right? Okay, so we are going to be learning what this does for us, how this helps us to solve problems, okay? So, the symbol with 2 lines is used to denote parallel lines, as we talked about on Recall Prior Knowledge. In the diagram, the line AB is parallel to line CD. So you can write AB is parallel to CD. Okay? And we use the arrow to identify parallel lines in the diagram. Okay? Now, I had to redraw this so that you can still see it on my screen, but you can just add to it. Okay? So, then we're going to add PQ to intersect AB and CD. Okay? So I drew PQ to intersect AB and CD. Okay? So PQ is called a transversal because it is a line that crosses 2 or more lines. Okay? It's crossing our 2 parallel lines, so we call this a transversal. Okay? So PQ is a transversal of AB and CD. And so a line that crosses 2 or more parallel lines is also called a transversal. Okay? Now, a transversal does not have to always cross parallel lines. Okay? But when it does cross a parallel line, it forms special angle pairs. Okay? With special names. Okay? So, angles 3, I'm going to highlight them. So angles 3, 4, 5, and 6, they fall between the parallel lines, right? So they are called interior because they are inside interior angles. Okay? Or simplified, they're called interior angles. Okay? Because they are inside the parallel lines. Okay? And then we have angles 1, 2, 8, and 7 are on the outside of the parallel lines. So they are called external angles. Or not external, but exterior. Okay, or simplified X angles. Okay. Remember, you can pause the video if you need more time to write, but I would highly recommend coloring the angles and kind of color coding so that you know interior and exterior angles. Okay? All right. Now, I just copied this over so that you could see it. You don't have to redraw this the diagram, okay? So you have, if you've color coded, yours looks like this, okay? Now, we have what we call alternate interior angles. So alternate means skipping one, kind of going back and forth, okay? So alternate interior angles are a pair of angles that lie inside of the pair of parallel lines and are on the opposite side of the transversal, okay? So they lie on the inside of the parallel lines and they are on opposite sides, okay? So we would say that angle 3 and angle 5 are alternate interior angles. And so if 3 and 5 are alternate interior angles, 4 and 6 are alternate interior angles. Okay? Now, I'm going to highlight. Let's look at the exterior angles. Okay? So alternate exterior angles are a pair of angles that lie outside the pair of parallel lines. Okay? So they are outside the parallel lines and on opposite sides of the transversal. Okay? So, based on our definition, angle 1 and angle 7 are alternate exterior angles. And angle 2 and angle 8 are alternate exterior angles. And the last one we have are corresponding angles, okay, are the pairs of angles on the same side of the transversal, but on the same side of the given line. Okay, so corresponding angles, they're on the same side. So if this is the transversal, they're on the same side. So we look at these ones. Okay, so let's look at the left side of the transversal. Okay, and as it says, they are on the same side of the given line. Okay, so this is the given line, right? These are the lines. This is the transversal. So we're looking at the left side of the transversal, and they're on the same side. So the corresponding angles would be 1 and 5 because they're on the same side. They're above the line, right? Okay, so angle 1 and angle 5 are corresponding angles. Angle 4 and angle 8 are corresponding angles. Right? Angle 4 and angle 8, because they are both to the left of the transversal and they are below the given line. Can you name the other two pairs of corresponding angles? Looking at your drawing, you should get angle 2 and angle 6, and angle 3 and angle 7 are corresponding angles. Okay? All right. Now, when two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, okay, the alternate interior angles, okay, which remember we talked about, the alternate interior angles, and this is just a smaller drawing. Here is just a smaller drawing of what you did up there. Okay, but the alternate interior angles are always congruent. Okay? And so we say the alt interior angles of parallel lines. So that means that the alternate interior, so 4 is congruent to 6, and 3 is congruent to 5. Also, the alternate exterior angles are also congruent. So we would say the alt exterior angles of parallel lines. Okay? And so that is 1 and 7 and 2 and 8. Okay? Now, 2 is not congruent to 1. Right? 2 is congruent to 8 and 1 is congruent to 7. Okay? And corresponding angles are also all congruent. So we call those corresponding angles. Oops, that's shorthand. Corresponding angles of parallel lines. Okay? And so that means that 1 is congruent to 5. 2 is congruent to 6, 4 is congruent to 8, and 3 is congruent to 7. And so taking that knowledge and going back to our first picture when we measured at the beginning, do you see how angle 1 is congruent to angle 7, and angle 2 is congruent to angle 8, and angle 4 is congruent to angle 6, and angle 3 is congruent to angle 5, and angle 1 is congruent to angle 5, and angle 2 is congruent to angle 6, and angle 4 is congruent to angle 8, and angle 3 is congruent to angle 7. Okay? So the alternate interior are congruent, the alternate exterior are congruent, and the corresponding angles are congruent. So let's try this out. All right. You're going to turn to page 39. Oops. Just gave you the answers. All right. Turn to page 38. You're going to do number 1 to 4. Do number 1 first. Pause this video and come back and check your work. Okay. So Identify the two pairs of alternate interior angles. You should have angle EAB and angle ABD, and angle FAB and angle ABC. The two alternate exterior, you should have angle GAE and angle DBH, and angle GAF and angle CBH. And for C, you should have angle GAF and angle GBD, and you should have GAE and GBC, and FAH and DBH, and EAH and CBH. If you got these right, continue on. If not, go back and look back at your notes, okay? Pause this video and check 2 and 3 and 4 when you have finished. So these are the answers for 2, 3. Well, let's do 2. So 2, you can check your work. 3 and 4. If you did